Chapter 1865 Origin. All the hard work gone to waste. Before his body completely lost feeling, Zhang Yi had this thought in his mind. Are there any regrets? Maybe there are, but they're not too bad. There are so many things in the world, and who can truly grasp them all? One can only do one's best and accept what comes. Yang Xinxin's plan was perfect, and Zhang Yi and the others executed it perfectly as well, so in the end, even though a variable like Ichigard appeared, there was nothing they could do about it. After all, you can't just allow Zhang Yi to cheat. Which of those present on the battlefield weren't the best of their respective countries, or even their races? It was just that here, Zhang Yi truly felt the sensation of death. Although for him, it was already the second time he felt it. However, this time there was no pain, because when Ichigard unleashed his ultimate weapon, everything was quickly extinguished. A white light appeared before his eyes, and the world turned into nothing. Zhang Yi touched his chin and thought to himself, with Ichigard's self-destruction, he definitely could not have survived. Otherwise, he should have used this move from the beginning to kill us all. So, what will the result of the trial say? Did everyone fail? That would be interesting. And just then, a voice suddenly sounded in his ear, very familiar. It was Ling's voice. Except this voice was different from the usual, without any emotion. Congratulations, you have passed this trial. Next I will tell you everything you want to know. And the truth about this world. Zhang Yi looked around, and Ling walked from a white expanse, as if she had appeared there very suddenly. However, Ling at this time was different from what he had seen in the past. She was wearing a set of pure white, tight-fitting battle armor, much like the third-generation black battle armor worn next to Zhang Yi's skin. This type of battle armor highlighted her figure, but she described it as still small. Her shapely figure was like that of a swimmer, not attractive or charming, but rather agile and cute. Zhang Yi asked in surprise, I passed the trial? In other words, the final blow from Ichigard didn't blow me up? Ling walked over to Zhang Yi and said indifferently, No, you are all dead. This is an annihilation ending. Then why did I pass the trial? Zhang Yi pointed at his nose and suddenly, he said with a sudden realization, could it be that I am really the chosen one? Ling gave him a faint glance and continued, because we had to choose an heir to inherit everything from the Yihan tribe. So, although you are all dead, based on your performance throughout the battle, we have selected the most outstanding candidate. Zhang Yi puffed up with pride. Yes, I am that most outstanding candidate. He was ecstatic and thought to himself, I really am no ordinary person. By the way, did you just say that the Yihan tribe is the name of your tribe? And what is the reward for passing the trials? Zhang Yi could hardly wait anymore. He was desperate to obtain the treasures of this mighty god-level civilization and become strong. If he could become the top creature on the planet with this, then he would have the confidence to face the unknown dangers. At that time, he would go to the Misty Valley on Star Island first and string up the reptiles from the Wulwan Empire for a barbecue. Zhang Yi thought to himself with a joke-like mind. Ling ignored what he said, and her voice echoed in the empty white space. Don't worry. Just listen to me, and you'll know the truth of everything. As soon as she finished speaking, the world and shadows before her eyes suddenly changed. I will explain it to you in a way that you can understand. The white space turned into a dark world, empty and with nothing but endless darkness. At that moment, a pure white area suddenly appeared in the upper region. This is a low-dimensional universe. It has nothing, it is empty. And its existence is an accident of various dimensions. But because it is empty, it can give birth to infinite possibilities. She pointed her finger at the upper part of the dark world, the bright world. And in a higher dimension, there exists another world. This world is full of another kind of existence, which you can understand as the spirit. Then her hand continued upwards, pointing in the direction of what could be the sky. And even higher, not in the sense of higher in the sky, but higher in the sense of higher dimensions. There is a world where beings of a higher dimension that we can call gods live. Zhang Yi nodded, as if he understood. Ling said, this world has an infinite universe with 11 dimensions. Most of the universes in these dimensions exist for no reason. The universe we live in, you can call it the material world. The universe as we know it only has 3 dimensions. Above the material world, she pointed to the white space, is the spiritual world. Or you can also call it the ether realm. That world is all spirit. And the higher world we can reach, which created all the worlds in this universe today, is the space where we think the Creator, or God, is. In layman's terms, it is the divine realm. Zhang Yi listened silently. Everything Ling said was the worldview of the world he existed in, and he knew nothing about it. He was shocked after listening. Ling continued, the Creator discovered this empty world and wanted to experience the existence of this world. However, due to the high dimensionality of his location, he was unable to directly perceive everything in this world. Hearing this, Zhang Yi raised his own doubts. Shouldn't the Creator be omniscient and omnipotent? How can it be that he is unable to perceive the world with his powers? Ling looked at Zhang Yi helplessly. Explaining such complex things to a creature with a low level of civilization does take time. So she held up one finger, the palm facing upwards. Look, if there were a world of 0 dimensions here, could you see how the creatures in this world exist, reproduce, and thrive? Zhang Yi's eyes widened. He tried to imagine it, but it was hard. 0 dimensions is a point with no height, length, or width. It doesn't even take up any space. How could he imagine it? Ling said, creatures cannot perceive dimensions higher than their own. A character on a 2-dimensional screen cannot see a person in the 3-dimensional world observing them. But a person in the 3-dimensional world can change everything in the 2-dimensional world at will. Therefore, people in the 5th dimension can change everything in this world. Even what we consider irreversible time is, in their eyes, something that actually exists. She gave an example, it's like when you watch a TV series. The people in the TV series can only follow the plot, but you have something called a progress bar that you can control to make the plot rewind. However, people in the 3-dimensional world are also unable to perceive the 0-dimensional world. The dimensional gap is too large, and higher dimensions cannot perceive lower dimensions. Because of this, she pointed to the sky in an inexplicable direction. The Creator of the divine realm must use the spirits of the ether realm as a medium to perceive the material world. Zhang Yi scratched his head, spirit. Does that mean our soul? Ling nodded. You can probably understand it like this, the Creator first created the universe. He created everything from nothing, and then created life. Finally, among these living beings, he selected those he was satisfied with and infused them with spirits. These creatures with spirits are the Creator's eyes, through which he senses the world. Zhang Yi's mind was a little confused at this point because of the large amount of information that had been injected into it. Wait, the Creator created this universe from nothing? Zhang Yi recalled the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything around him. These things came from nothing? Ling was not surprised by Zhang Yi's surprised reaction. That's right. This universe, in itself, is nothing. Zhang Yi nodded, not too surprised. But Ling continued, and now, this universe is still nothing. Zhang Yi gasped. Nothing? Are you kidding me? Are the countless stars false? Is this planet false? Are we also false? Ling stared at Zhang Yi and said, the Creator has unimaginable power. He is the collective consciousness of all spirits in the ether realm, the collective unconscious, and is the supreme being. Everything you see is just an illusion presented by the naked eye. In fact, apart from the spirit within you, which is real, your flesh, your bones, everything about you is false. Zhang Yi found this statement utterly ridiculous. If what the eyes see is all false, doesn't that mean that their lives, their entire world, is just a simulation? Ling explained, you humans have a subject that explains the laws of the universe. It's crude, but it's studied right down to the atomic level, right? Zhang Yi said, that subject is called physics. Ling was trying her best to use the most common and easily understood language to make Zhang Yi understand what she was trying to say. It felt a bit like teaching a newborn baby to speak, and you had to use simpleton language. Then let me ask you, is there a most basic particle in the world that cannot be differentiated? Zhang Yi really had a hard time at this point. I only know that the smallest particle is a quark. It was hard to blame his high school physics teacher, as he didn't really pay attention in class, but he did like looking at the pictures. Ling simply and bluntly told him, matter does not exist at all. Matter is just a manifestation of force, she said, placing her palm on Zhang Yi's chest. A clear sense of touch came from Zhang Yi's chest. You see, now my palm is really touching you, isn't it? Zhang Yi nodded. Well, Ling said, but the particles that make up my palm can never touch your body. The only reason I can touch you is that you subconsciously believe that I can. There's no such thing as matter or particles. Although the Big Bang Theory is not absolutely correct, it is very close to reality. The birth of the universe was just the Creator's power erupting out of a point of nothingness. It was His power that created everything, and everything you see is just a manifestation of the Creator's power. Zhang Yi somehow felt that this theory was very familiar. He didn't believe in religion, but he had also learned some knowledge about Orthodox Christianity in textbooks. According to the Holy Scripture, this is how God created the world. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The world was in a state of emptiness and chaos. There was nothing, just like an endless abyss, with only darkness. God's Spirit moved above the water in the middle of nothing. God said, "Let there be light." And so the world was born with light. On the first 5 days, God created the sun, the moon, the stars, and the rest of the universe out of nothing. Later, He created the air, water, and the flowers, birds, insects, and fish on the earth. On the 6th day, He created human beings. In the past, Zhang Yi only heard these as myths, but now, combined with what Ling had said, it made him feel a little shiver. Could it be that the so-called ancient myths were not actually the ancestors' vain fabrications, but rather implied true history? It was the ancient people who passed down the truth of history to future generations in a simple and easy-to-understand way. Zhang Yi looked at his hands in a daze, and the knowledge of physics that he had almost forgotten over the years came flooding back to him. If he were to split his body infinitely and then squeeze it into a ball, how big would it be in the end? Even stars could be compressed into objects with a mass of several 100 million tons per cubic centimeter, and there were also black holes with such high densities that they could absorb light. After compressing him, he might really become something with 0 dimensions, with nothing existing at all. Ling's voice sounded. Formless is powerful, and form is powerless. The power of the spirit is greater than that of the form it takes. After the world was created, God scattered a part of Himself, the spirit of the ether realm, and bestowed it upon the creatures of this world, so that they could perceive the world. This is the origin of life. Zhang Yi thought about it for a moment, and then suddenly asked curiously, does every creature contain a spirit? Ling shook her head, no, only intelligent beings have them. All other life forms are just options or tools that make up the world. This is why intelligent beings can have extremely high intelligence and develop civilization. Zhang Yi's inner shock was beyond words. This day was a very significant day in his life, and he began to re-examine the world. Evolution theory, is it wrong too? Ling said, for intelligent beings who have been chosen as observers, it is indeed wrong. But for other living things, there is also a certain degree of correctness in objective laws. A thought suddenly came to Zhang Yi's mind. If the Creator is a being of a higher dimension, then can He reverse the flow of time in this world? Ling looked deeply at Zhang Yi and nodded. Of course. But then she added, but reversing time is something that only higher dimensional beings can do. That would be very difficult. Zhang Yi exclaimed in his heart, thinking of his rebirth. At this moment, he began to doubt whether he had awakened the ability to predict the future in the first place, or whether he had really been killed and then reborn. Difficult? Ling laughed lightly. You seem to have forgotten something. Huh? Zhang Yi blinked. Ling's finger pointed at his brain. Spirit is a being from a higher dimension. In other words, from the very beginning, intelligent beings themselves are carriers of a higher dimension. They are beings from a higher dimension. It's like you can't enter the two-dimensional world, but you can influence it by creating a character in a video game as your substitute or carrier. Spirit is a being from a higher dimension. Formless yet powerful, it can influence the material laws of this world, even across the dimension of time. This is why you can predict the future. Ling looked directly into Zhang Yi's eyes. Do you think the world's operation is certain or uncertain? Of course it's uncertain, Zhang Yi answered without any hesitation. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. No one knows if it will be windy or rainy, or if the planet will be destroyed. There are too many uncertain factors in this world. It's like flipping a coin, the probability of either side appearing is always 50%. However, next, Ling said something that overturned Zhang Yi's perception. No, the laws of operation for everything in this world are set, and so are the results. There are no coincidences at all, everything is inevitable. Zhang Yi frowned, trying to say something to refute it. Ling raised her hand, and suddenly a 1 yuan coin appeared in the palm of her hand. Is the probability of getting heads when you flip a coin 50%? No, it isn't. Because when you flip a coin, the way you throw it, the air resistance, the wind speed, all these factors are fixed. Their combined effect will give you a definite result. Zhang Yi, you might as well think about it. Use your shallow knowledge of physics. That scientist named Newton once said, "What is the necessary factor that affects the state of motion of an object?" Zhang Yi said, "Force." He remembered that without the influence of external forces, matter always maintained a state of uniform linear motion or rest. Ling said, at the beginning of the universe's creation, the Creator gave it a primordial force, shaping the best environment for life to be born on this planet. Since then, it has allowed the world to operate according to the laws of nature. If the entire universe is targeted for observation, it has not been affected by any external forces since then. Then, is its state of motion unchanging? Zhang Yi no longer knew how to answer. Ling continued, if you humans initially understood that the birth of the human race was a miracle born randomly by the universe, rather than the will of a creator, then is your appearance in this system, which is not affected by external forces, also inevitable. She pointed at Zhang Yi and said, then, humans in this system, including you, are also inevitable. Are all your thoughts and actions also inevitable? If that is the case, then of course we can predict your future actions according to the laws of the universe. Zhang Yi was silent. He simply couldn't come up with an answer, because the more he thought about it, the more he felt that Ling was right. Is everything in this world predetermined? Is everything really determined by fate? Ling, however, gave a different explanation. The only external force that can truly affect the operation of the material world is observation by higher dimensional beings. It is human observation that has caused changes in the world and given rise to all kinds of uncertainty. Zhang Yi's mind was in a complete mess, but he still managed to grasp the crux of the matter. I think, therefore I am. Wang Xing's theory from hundreds of years ago had actually predicted the link between human observation and the meaning of the universe's existence. If it weren't for the need to be observed, then this universe would have no reason to exist at all. The universe was created by the Creator's will, which is unchanging. Humans, each generation of humans, are the vessels of the Creator's spirit. It's like the relationship between the main server of a computer and the personal computer after the network is disconnected. Individuals can change the universe through observation, but due to the weakness of spiritual power, this change will be brought back to the original trajectory by the Creator's spiritual power. Zhang Yi closed his eyes, his head ached a little, and many memories were evoked. He began to doubt life. Is one's existence meant to be about observing the world? It doesn't seem to matter, because most people's lives are meaningless anyway. In that case, throughout the ages, all those myths and religions that say the planet is the source of the universe, were right. And the ones who were wrong were Copernicus and Bruno. Ling nodded. Yes, the planet is the source of the universe. the entire universe was shaped to create a planet like this, one that is suitable for observers to live on. Zhang Yi wiped his face, his mind numb from the shock. What does any of this have to do with us? Please tell me. Although he knew that all this was very impressive, his main concern was not how he came to be, but how he would cease to exist. He meant that he was more concerned about the present. Even if his essence was just a standalone system disconnected from the Creator's server, he had to make sure that he lived a good life. He doesn't have time to think about the meaning of life and all that. Ling said, "This is the origin of the universe. And when all is ready, the Creator will descend. Your generation is not the first humans to appear on the planet. Before you, there have been 5 generations of humans, and you are the 6th. Zhang Yi held his arms, listening to this step with particular attention. Perhaps next, he would be able to find out what those underground civilizations were and where the disasters of the end of the world came from. The first generation of humans was named Ashu. They were a group of mindless, beast-like beings with extremely poor survival skills. After appearing on the planet, they quickly became endangered due to their inability to hunt and take care of themselves. The Creator realized that they were unable to live independently, so he created a second race, angels, to come to Earth.